Are there any pens that you first disliked that grew on you over time? I really didn't like my TWSBI 580 when I first got it. Then months later, I picked it up again and appreciated it. Now it's a daily carry. Well, that's cool. You know, sort of a black swan kind of story for you. I don't necessarily have like pens that I absolutely hated and now I absolutely love. A lot of pens, I have a pretty good gut instinct for like, yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of that. But I do have some a little bit over time that have grown on me. You know, when the TWSBI Eco first came out, I was really excited about just the pricing and the prospect and stuff like that. The cap really bothered me. You know, it's the hexagonal cap on the Eco. I don't love it. I still don't love it. It was kind of a turnoff for me, and I really didn't use it much at first. But it was a kind of scenario where I knew we would get a lot of questions about it, so I kept one personally. I think I kept like a white cap one in broad. I was like, I don't really want to write with this thing, so I'll just keep whatever we have stock of that I know people will want the least. So I kept that. And then I inked it up. I kept it inked up with the same ink for like 8 months. And the thing just freaking wrote every time. And so I was like, okay, I don't love the aesthetics of the cap, but dang it if this isn't a great writer and a phenomenal value. Now, basically every color of Eco that's been coming out, I've been keeping one. And I'm like, well, daggone, I'm just a freaking Eco collector now. What do you know? But it's a very reliable pen. I'm a huge fan of how it writes. So that might be an example of something that I didn't love because of one aspect of the aesthetics, but the writing kind of turned me around. Let's see the next one. Lamy Safari actually was not a huge fan at first. You know, I've also become an accidental collector of Safaris. But I really, and especially like when we got into some of the special editions, it was like neon green, neon coral, you know, and it was just like all these greens and yellows and stuff. And I was like, okay, enough of that. But then they started to come out with like the dark lilac, the petrol, the all black, and I was like, okay, these matte finishes, I'm more into them. I know not everybody loves them, but I like the matte finishes a little better. The more subtle colors are really cool. I think they're probably due for going a little wilder now. They've gone matte for a couple of years and dark for a couple of years. Maybe mix it up a little bit, Lamy. Just a little hint of a suggestion there. If that matters at all, they're not going to watch this video. But anyway, so you know, that's one that definitely has grown on me. I have this whole freaking Safari collection now. But that one is one that kind of came around on. Let's see here, the Traveler's Pen. So this one, it's a relatively recent acquisition that we've had here. I carry it around on my Traveler's notebook, which actually fits quite nicely, as you might guess. They make both of these. But it's this little brass pen, and I'm not a huge pocket pen guy. I have big hands. I like really thick pens, generally pretty heavy pens. But something about just the portability of this, it's cartridge only, so it's got like a lot of things about it that like on paper, I wouldn't necessarily be like, yeah, sign me up. But I saw that there would be an appeal for this, so I was always on board from the beginning for us to carry this pen. But then once we got it in and I held it and I was like, oh, this thing is solid. And I like brass and copper pens and stuff like that where it gets a lot of character. Like my resin pens, like, you know, it's one thing for them to get kind of, you know, just battle worn, you know, desk worn or whatever, you know, you get the little micro scratches and little dings and stuff like that. And that I'm always kind of like, oh, I try to like polish those up a little bit. But actually when I get like, you know, my, you know, copper mule from Monograppa and like the brass pen and stuff like that, I actually like to let them just patina and just, I beat them up a little bit and carry them around a little more rougher. You know, it's like this one I had actually in my pocket next to my pocket knife, and like I wasn't even thinking about it. I had the blade edge of the knife like up against this thing, so it's like all scratched up on the side here. And then I was like, actually that's kind of cool because it's like, that's my story. That's how I use it. So just like the character this pen has, and then it's actually a very reliable writer. It's a very small pen, but then when you post it, it does. So I actually freaking love this pen now. So this one it's not that I hated it at first, it just wasn't a pen for me. And now I like carry it around with me everywhere I go, just because it's super durable and it's just I don't have to think about it kind of a pen. I just keep a couple extra cartridges in there and I'm like, I don't really care what color or whatever it is that I use. It's just a when I need to grab a pen kind of pen. Okay, and then the last one that I have, this one is interesting. So this wasn't so much that I hated it, it was just like, what is that? So this is a vintage pen called the Lamy Lady. So they had a couple different patterns. This is one I affectionately refer to as the Golden Cow, but it's actually a really nice pen. Body's made of porcelain. It's actually pretty freaking expensive, cool pen. It's got this interesting gold nib, which Lamy doesn't make on any of their current pens. So it's a really interesting pen. And, you know, it doesn't have a clip, but it's got these little roll stops. And it's just a really kind of elegant pen, you know, and I don't have an extensive vintage collection. I do have a lot of different Lamys, but just kind of over the years, I've had this pen probably 6 years, and over time, it's become kind of like one of my more endearing pens that are just like, it's an aspect, like you look at me and you wouldn't think like this guy's carrying a Golden Cow Lady pen around, but I actually really like it. So I don't know, just goes to show that sometimes it's not like most of the other pens that I have, but you know, I just like it. I don't know, I have no other explanation for it other than it's just really grown on me, just because it's so unique. So there you go. Truth be told, I'm a pretty excitable person, and I probably end up genuinely liking way too many pens, so there's not really that many that I dislike to start with. I'm not joking. I looked through my whole collection of 600 or whatever pens, and I was like, I don't really hate any of these. So I think it's kind of like, you know, all adopted children where it's like, I love them all equally. That's definitely not true, but you know, I do love pens. What can I say?